A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today being a Friday, we normally review the major events of the week, but today we'll be paying attention to Operation Maliza Ufisadi. We'll be asking a question: has Operation Maliza Ufisadi taken root? You might be wondering, why are we doing this exactly? Well, it's a discussion that is a follow-up to what we have seen happening this particular week. We saw the arrest and arraignment of 7 parliamentary staff over embezzlement of funds in court yesterday. The action was taken by the Inspector General of Government, and the amounts of money involved are close to 31 billion shillings shared across the different individuals who were arraigned yesterday in court. Now, some of these issues that manifested themselves yesterday had been discussed following the expose by Agora in what was called the Parliamentary Watch. So many people dismissed those figures which were being shared across the X platform, and they were saying it was cooked up. Now, the information that is available actually shows that the budget of Parliament suddenly increased at the time when Right Honourable Anita took over the speakership, and one of the areas where this increment was reflected was in donation, trips and allowances. And we actually told that this money would cater for commissioners and some influential MPs. There are some people who are sharing specific numbers and saying there were 35 influential MPs from both the opposition and the ruling party. Money meant for committee work was also rechanneled to the Speaker's office, leaving committees that carry out oversight redundant. What is also disturbing is the fact that this money was being deposited on private accounts, which contradicts, the Public Finance and Accountability Act. And there were some items, including corporate social responsibility, where funds were allegedly spent. I'm saying allegedly because it's claimed that actually the activities were not funded. But people are also asking a question: how can a public entity be involved in corporate social responsibility, especially Parliament, which appropriates budgets? Entities come before Parliament, they have a budget, shortfall, and Parliament has the ability to save some money for donation to engage in corporate social responsibility, and sometimes they even donate to those entities that cried out for more funding. How can that be happening? Those are some of the questions that are being asked. Now, it has been indicated that among those who were charged yesterday, there is an individual who provided the relevant information both to the IGG and the President Yoweri Museveni, maybe in exchange for lenience or something like that. But that information has come to the public forum. Now, that, of course, the reports about corruption in Parliament have, opened up a big discussion about where we are as a country, and the questions are being asked. For instance, who should determine the budget of Parliament, the emoluments of Parliament? There's also that debate about the big fish and the small fish. Some people are saying after these ones being charged, who else should be taken? Because they're saying it is likely to be a syndicate, and there's so many other people who are there. Of course, the question then comes: has Operation Maliza Ufisadi taken root? President Yoweri Museveni has been talking tough against corruption, including, warning parliamentarians. And we know he has also directed an investigation into the Ministry of Works and Transport over the Busega PG Express Highway project. The initial budget of that road project was 600 billion, but he has shot up to 1.3 trillion shillings amid these delays to finish this particular project. So I have a panel of 4. We'll be reflecting on some of these issues to look at them in a deeper sense and to understand what they mean for our country. The panel: Mr. Moses Lutaya, economist, financial literacy and credit specialist, lecturer at Uganda Institute of Bankers and Financial Services. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, Anderson.
Also in studio, Mr. Tony Tumukunde, lawyer, NRM member, pundit on legal and governance matters. Good evening, Tumukunde. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, Anderson. I don't know why you like NRM member.
Are you saying you are not an NRM member?
I am, but you're making it at every show.
Is it a problem?
It sounds more than a lawyer.
Is it bad to tell
It's
people
not
that
bad.
you're from the
You
NRM?
want to denounce that you are NRM?
Why are you feeling?
Most especially saying it while looking at
You're not
cartoon.
comfortable.
While looking at cartoon.
All right. Then in studio we have Mr. Job Kija, Associate Director, Innovations for Democratic Engagement and Action. Idea comes from civil society. Good evening, Job. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, Kenneth. Good evening, listeners. Happy to be here with you this evening.
All right. Also in studio, Mr. Kato Tumsime, lawyer, also pundit on legal and governance matters. Good evening, Kato. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Anderson, and the members I have today. Dear listeners, good evening to you.
Well, keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. That's the WhatsApp line. It could be a question or comment, and the panelists here will be reflecting on some of the issues that you will put across. But also remember, this discussion is all about you, so we want you to be engaged, to share with us information that you have where necessary, but also to weigh in, to provide your views about this particular discussion. Well, let's roll in and look at this particular issue in detail, and I want to begin with you, Job Kija. We've been here before, discussed these issues of misuse of public resources in Parliament. At the time Agora came out, they talked about the amounts of money which were involved. Some people dismissed them, but we are seeing now action being taken. And I want to ask you, how did you feel when you finally heard the news breaking that some people had been arrested and they were being prosecuted for embezzlement?
Actually, when this so-called operation to clean up corruption in Parliament started, I felt a bit relieved, because this is a struggle that we have been in for quite some time. You remember the Black Monday campaign that we ran about 10 years back against corruption. And I think for a long period of time, we have been saying actually that Parliament is a crime scene, because a lot of corruption has been going on there. But the corruption that is going on at Parliament is not just in the institution by officers of Parliament, but there are so many other processes which emanate even from the executive that actually have to be dealt with. So juxtaposed against the speech of the president during his swearing in, when he said this is Kisanja of normal sleep and Kisanja of normal corruption. Of course, I know that this it has been the sloganeering for the past 2 decades. Every time he's swearing in, he commits zero tolerance to corruption. And so, of course, I had some sort of skepticism, because I was wondering, is this another slogan, or indeed he's serious? So when he started biting, I then felt, yeah, that this is a good thing. Now, the unfortunate thing is that this fight was then vulgarized by people that actually hijacked it, who then started politicizing it. And that, in my view, took away the legitimacy that the entire fight had. Because people started making all manner of sensational statements about it on social media and in other spaces. They came and said, no, we are the ones who have come to clean up. We are the ones who are cleaning up. And these are politicians who have their own other political agenda. So that, in a way, took away the credibility that actually this fight was about. And there are so many other things that came in, including hijacking the process of election of the speaker in Parliament. And then we saw that there was also selective application of the cleanup, because there are so many individuals there that actually should be on this charge sheet that are not there, whose names even emerged during the campaign. They've been exonerated. There are people whom we thought would actually all go down with, because this actually is connected to the speaker, the former speaker. You can't divorce her from this cleanup, because that's where it started from. Okay? So we thought actually these individuals would all be in the same boat. Now, unfortunately, we have seen that some people have been pulled out and a few people have been left in. So the mere fact that this has been applied selectively actually takes away the public confidence. Because you see, you can't win a fight against corruption without having confidence of citizens that indeed you are fighting corruption. Now, we also have anti-corruption crusaders who have been really, been victims of the individuals that are now actually being tried in the anti-corruption court, and even others that have not yet been presented, whom we believe are going to be presented soon. There are people who got locked up for periods, there are people who got tortured, and they were being tortured and being locked up by this same state that is actually prosecuting these individuals. Now, for me, if you're to fight corruption, and you're using the information or evidence that was provided by individuals that you locked up, by now you should actually be either issuing a public apology to these individuals or even giving them medals for helping expose this corruption that they were fighting. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is that some of them, as we speak, this week ends today, Friday, that this week some of them have actually still been summoned to CID to record all manner of statements. The individuals that have been to CID, when they tell you the kind of information they are being asked about, it is not even anywhere connected to things they've been engaged in the past. You can clearly see that the witch hunt from the fight against corruption in the march against in the march to parliament has actually continued today. So for me, the point is that, you see, if you're to fight corruption, there are 4 things that you need to do. The first one is you need the public support. And public support, you need to be doing the right things, which make us believe that you actually are not victimizing people. The second thing you need to do is to depoliticize it. Because the fight against corruption, much as sometimes it might be committed by politicians, is not political. This is about following the law. There are certain things in the law that have to be followed in the fight against corruption. So you can't actually claim to be enforcing the law against corruption, yet you're abusing other laws. Why am I saying that? I'll give an example. We have had incidents whereby you have individuals that are in uniform, okay? And they are making statements which they are not supposed to be making. And they are making them in respect to fighting corruption. So you're breaking another law, okay? Apparently to enforce a law against corruption. The second thing that you need to do is you need to be sure that you deal away, because you see the other issue is we are looking at track record, okay? How have cases of this nature been handled in the recent past? I recall, I think about 3 to 4 weeks back, the individuals that were implicated in the corruption scandals in relation to the office of the Prime Minister, apparently the IGG came out and said that, we have lost interest in this case. Yet actually, taxpayers' money was lost. So the question is, the individuals that are being implicated in this corruption scandal in Parliament, are we also going to see 10 years from now, the IGG losing interest without the taxpayer getting back their money? So I think public confidence is also important, and you need the public support. So right now, instead of the public saying, we are so happy that the cleaning up is actually happening, we have seen statements like, why is it that, I think on the charge sheet there are 9 people, there are 8 people in total, not so?
Yes.
But 7 of those seem to be coming from the same side of the of the country, okay? And then I think 1 from Central. So people are asking, why is it that it's only people that are coming from one side of the country that are being implicated, and people that we know from other sides of the country are not actually implicated? So public confidence is also important, because right now, if the public is not on your side as you try and fight this corruption, however much you might try, you will actually lose the fight along the way.
All right. Let's go to Kato. Let's hear your quick thoughts about what has unraveled. And I also want to hear from you. Did you expect this to happen, and what you read from these happenings?
Yeah, thank you so much. And from my side and my understanding, I believe that this was long overdue. It would have happened so many years back. Not that this is a parliament that has been filled with corrupt people, but they have overdone themselves. They have overdone the corruption things and scandals that they have been involved in. I would want to agree with what my colleague here said in terms of how the operation, how the arrests, how the summoning is being conducted. When the exhibition done by Agora about the corruption in Parliament started, many people despised it, and they thought it was just unleashing anger against the people that were in Parliament that they did not support, allegedly. Some of them were saying that these are people that are being funded by foreigners so that they can fight the speaker and the team because of the laws they had passed. Later on, Ugandans picked up the mantle and said, with what we are seeing, let's march to Parliament and maybe call for something to happen in terms of the corrupt being brought to the book. The issue that I have with whatever action is being done now, it is at some point it is late to be done. But even when it is done selectively. That the big wigs in that parliament who are actually implicated in a number of reports done during the exhibition are still loitering around and enjoying our taxes, even when, yes, we might say that they are alleged to have committed those offenses of corruption, embezzlement, and so what, but they must be also called, maybe to make statements, allow investigations to proceed. Parliament has a person in charge of accounting, who is an accounting officer. Where is he in all this? Did he know what was transpiring? And that is a cracked Parliament. Honorable Adolf Mwesiji, where is he in all this? When all this money was being split and separated and enjoyed, what was he doing? He was sleeping on the job. That should be actually A1 on this charge sheet, if not A2, because the A1 is there, who was in charge of Parliament during that season when corruption was the song of the day everywhere. Or A3, because there are two individuals in charge. But as we might allow the police, we might allow the IGG to take their time, do investigations, but we cannot wait any further to see actions being done in terms of bringing whoever is implicated to books, to face the law, and let, if there is no evidence bringing them to have committed this offense, then they should be set free. But we have one problem. The office of the IGG, under the leadership of Honorable Kamya, she said that she knows the corrupt people and thieves that were stealing Ugandans' money, taxpayers' money. She says the person who is hiding these thieves is the president of this country.
Actually, that was not Honorable Kanya. That was the previous.
Even Kamya repeated the same. Said thieves are hiding behind the president. And you see, when people started to come and say this corruption has become rampant in this parliament, the police was at the shield. If you remember the March Parliament 2024 around July, Parliament was inaccessible by every other individual. Why? They were shielding the corrupt people inside there. You heard words they were saying that because they passed certain laws, that's why people are coming against them. But that's not, it is not all rust. If we really want to believe that President Museveni is very certain, and whoever is starting this Swahili word of fighting corruption are very serious about it, it will start with the political will. When the corruption...
Haven't you seen any political will when the president comes out and action seems to be taken?
President comes out with the right hand, does the arrest or influences the arrest. He comes with the second hand and forgives the thieves and openly says it, that you see, we had this honorable from Ruengo, she stole Mabati, but we forgave her, now she has been redeemed. But the political will I'm talking about is that if you are really interested in fighting this corruption completely, you must act and let each arm of government do its job. If it's the judiciary, leave the rest to the judiciary. Don't interfere with your executive power, and as the president of the country, simply forgive. We know that he has that power of the prerogative of mercy under the Constitution, but the prerogative of mercy comes after a process of the judicial system working. One is convicted if they are found guilty, sentenced, and then you can come in with the prerogative of mercy, but not come to interfere in the work and the duties of the judiciary. When those colleagues were involved in the money that was related to circles, including this honorable from Igara, Mawanda, you saw the man who is heading this Mariza Usafidi saying, but why would you arrest my friend? But your friends are thieves and corrupt people. So it is just selective that if you don't align yourselves with what the system has put in place in terms of what they are interested in, then you be a victim, and then that's how you end up in Rosita, and others are set free. That in all the people that were implicated in the stealing of the Ramoja iron sheets, it's only one person who faced the law and convicted. The others were either forgiven, others were never even summoned to appear at police to make statements, and the world is moving on normally. The point I want to make is that for you to fight corruption, especially in in an institution like Parliament, you start with the head, because these other people that are being implicated here were getting this money from somewhere, and that someone who was authorizing the release of this money should be the first person to be accountable in all this. If we don't start by treating the disease of the headache, if we don't start with the head, we shall not even control the pain that comes after you having too much headache. So we have to start with the head up to the last person, but everybody must come to account and they must face the law as it is.
All right, Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a quick break. When we return, we'll hear from the other two panelists who are here in studio. That is Tony Tumukunde and the other guest who is Moses Lutaya, as they also share their perspective on the fight against corruption. And the question we're asking, as Operation Maliza Ufisadi taken root? Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. We continue after this break. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90 as we discuss Operation Maliza Ufisadi as the fight against corruption in our country taken root, looking at what happened to the staff of Parliament, but we're also asking the question, who else should be looked at? Are there other entities that almost are doing the same thing like Parliament did that need to be touched? The guest this evening, Mr. Moses Lutaya, economist, financial literacy and credit specialist. He's also a lecturer, Uganda Institute of Bankers and Financial Services. Mr. Job Kija, associate director, innovations for democratic engagement and action, IDEA. Mr. Katoto Msime, lawyer, also pundit on legal and governance matter. The fourth panelist is Mr. Tony Tumukunde, who is now coming on to share his perspective. Tony, Operation Maliza Ufisadi. Of course, I've seen a discussion going on social media about this slogan, but we've also been discussing about these issues. As you sit down as a young person, as a member of the ruling party, and as a lawyer who closely follows prosecution of such issues, do you get a feeling that the fight against corruption has finally taken off?
Yes, with the assumption to office of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, I will surely believe in his fight against corruption. Corruption is, to me, I exceed defining it as abuse of resources, but power probably entrusted. And the general, one of the things that is making him famous to Ugandans is the fight against corruption. No one will ever tell you that General Muhoozi is corrupt. No one will tell you that his name has been implicated or used. We have had very many generals whose names have been used.
And I'm here wondering why his name has come up.
Yes, his name is coming up because of the fight against corruption.
I'm saying here on this table.
On his table.
I'm wondering why you're bringing
because he's the proponent of the slogan for the fight against corruption. But also his father in May, General President Yoweri Museveni, stated that this Chisanja is for no sleep and no corruption. And it was about, I think he mentioned 5 things: industrialization, value addition, accountability, and the other 2 I forget. But most importantly, that would appetize the Ugandans is the accountability bit of it, whoever is in office. Within only 4 months, we are going to see the greatest fight for the last 2 weeks. You've seen what the president has done in his letters. The president is not stupid to come out and say a group of people channeled or charted a road that was already compensated for, and then he says, IGG, please continue with the investigation. He's indirectly telling you that I know the truth, but I want to see what IGG will actually do. Most of the people think that the president sleeps on the job. The president is the fountain of honor, is the last channel of power. So if you bring a complaint, he wants also to respect the organs and the systems. He will send it back, and most often he sends it back to CID, he sends it back to State House Anti-Corruption, he sends it back to the IGG.
He wants
Not
the fight
that
to
he
have a
does-
legal backing.
Exactly.
Those are
Not-
the institutions
no,
responsible.
Yes, not that he does not know what to do or is leaving people. And it's so absurd that if it dies at a stage, because the president is fed with intelligence,
Mm.
and if he tells you that, give me a report about A, B, C, D, Kata, I would comfort you that the president wrote a letter appreciating Agora. I don't know whether you came across that letter.
I am waiting to see a letter because we are the ones
Yeah,
who
he appreciated it. Yes, he appreciated the people of Angola for having brought out any financial misappropriation in Parliament. That shows you that he knew, but he was waiting for credible and cogent evidence. And now you have seen that with credible and cogent evidence, he's taking on the arrest. The arrest has not yet stopped. Kato asked, why is it that other people have not been arrested?
You tell us what
The
do you know.
investigations at this stage
Mm.
have revealed those that are in the corridors of court. But the investigations are still moving. I want to assure you that, truth be told, Parliament, there are very many people that are going to be investigated or under investigations, including even opposition people who will come here and now cry that it is being used as a tool of operation. It is no longer corruption, because I've heard several people saying the fight against corruption in Parliament is not the real fight against corruption, but a power struggle. That is how Ugandans tend to be funny.
Mm.
And so you're going to find that 15 to 20 opposition people from the National Unity Platform and FDC are going to be summoned about these resources, because it's not all about those that release, but also those that receive. Do you know that we have MPs here who were taking trips and switch off their phones and they don't go anywhere? And those are the people that are meant to check the executive, to check the judiciary, but they are in opposition and they were switching off phones. So if General MK, who under the UPDF establishment has been given power over all security institutions, commands police that please go ahead and investigate so and so. However, opposition, I've seen very many people bringing out the names of commissioners. Tomorrow those commissioners will be called. The very people that are supporting the fight against corruption will be blaming the security organs, saying you are only arresting the Baganda. You are already arresting the Itesots. If the Itesots are the ones who have eaten, it is okay, let them be arrested. If the Baganda have eaten, it is okay, let them be arrested. If they get a Mnyankore who has eaten, let him be arrested. If a Rugubara has eaten, let him be arrested. That is the fight against corruption. It takes everyone. If it is the Prime Minister, if it is the Vice President, if it is the Speaker, let them be arrested. In other countries, corruption is taken as treason. It doesn't leave anyone. Even those that conceal.
But Tony, are
Yes.
you saying right now it is only the Itesots that have eaten?
It is right now, it is not only the Itosots that
They
have
are the
eaten, but
majority
it is the only group that has been now.
There was even a Munyankole in the group of those who were charged. The one who was heading the parliamentary circle. He's not an Itesoid.
No, you see.
What I'm saying
Investigations are funny.
Mm.
Anderson, and to the listeners, investigations are funny. Kato here will tell you that there might be an investigation of just one piece of paper, and there is an investigation of books of accounts, and there is an investigation of legal non-compliance, and there is an investigation of audit. So investigations are funny. It is not true that those others that have not been summoned are innocent. They will be summoned at the end of the day. But we have also seen, I think, the executive secretary that went and gave in all the friends and the information thinking they would leave him. They picked him. Today they picked him. And then you will see other people like the clerks, not only actually the clerk to parliament, but also clerks to committees of parliament. Some of them are going to be picked because you are entrusted under the Administration of Parliaments Act to account for these resources. And you as a clerk to the committee, you fail to account for the resources. So when they come and pick you, it might not be a Munyankore or a Muganda who is a big fish, but there might be several clerks to these committees that might be picked. But you see, let's not leave the point. Kato raises a very important point in court, that you see some people stole iron sheets and they were set free. Please, I want to tell you that Chitutu's case is still going on. It is only Nandutu. Nandutu's case, what quickened Nandutu's case is because Nandutu had few applications. Chitutu has 3 to 4 applications that were raised, but it's still ongoing.
including the one on human rights
Exactly.
violations.
Yes, it's still ongoing.
Mm.
For the sake of the Lugolobis and all the others,
The Kasaija, his former speaker, Anita Mung,
it is now the weakness of
the
Yolo.
Prime Minister herself.
It is the weakness of Yolo that the
Those
DPP
ones were never arraigned.
it is.
But they participated in
You see,
stealing these irons.
Kato is a good proponent of rule of law.
Kato, just on record,
Yes.
according to the assessment which was done, those people were not directly implicated. So maybe it's wrong to say on public radio that they
They were
participated
directly
in stealing.
implemented. Now, let me make it clear. They were directly implemented, and even the president ordered that whoever participated in taking those iron sheets should return them.
The fact
The
of
former
the-
speaker
the
is
fact-
the one who was leading the whole crew.
Kato, the fact
And-
of the matter is that the iron sheets were located in their compounds, but they actually said they
On
never
the
they,
top of
they
the-
never picked
But
them.
there is an offense.
But
Kato-
wind up your point.
but you see, Kato is a proponent and agent of rule of law in Uganda.
Mm.
I will be open to him that he knows the powers of the DPP. Not even the president can direct the
But
DPP.
Tony, how
on
do you
to-
explain that issue that the iron sheets were found in somebody's compound?
I-
But
There is a
person
point I wanted to
prosecuted.
make on that point.
That was social
I'll
media
give you an
banter.
opportunity.
That was social media banter. At least from the record, the reasons that the DPP gave
Mm.
for excusing others from sanctioning, there was nothing like they found iron sheets. She said then, the DPP then said that there was insufficient
The
and
Honorable
incogent evidence
Matia
to implicate
Kasaija,
them.
the Honorable Matia Kasaija openly said he never asked for iron sheets, but he found them in his
In his
compound.
compound.
But you see, any
All right.
Ugandan can be a complaint.
Conclude your point and we hear from Mr. Lutai.
Kato can go and implicate Honorable Matia
All right.
Kasaija.
All right. Let's move on to Mr. Lutai. Mr. Lutai, your take on this fight against corruption. As an economist, you know the dangers of corruption to our economy, but let's hear your quick thoughts on it.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, listeners, once again. How I want to bring out this issue deeply for somebody to understand it should be starting with appreciating what corruption is. The common man down there wants to know what corruption is. And basically, corruption is abuse of office. Abuse of office through stealing, or this that we always call mismanagement. But the real thing would be stealing. These people are stealing public funds. But the issue here that we want to look at is that what is happening, or what happened yesterday, should simply remind us that corruption is not simply about numbers in the newspapers, or these people appearing in newspapers every day. It's about telling us that this is taxpayers' money that is earned by Ugandans through hard work, farming, agriculture, transport, among other things.
Mm.
And that everyone in the country contributes to the national treasury, directly or indirectly, through taxes paid on whatever they use. We call it fuel, airtime, among other things. So we should be able to appreciate that the resources that are collected to improve the lives of Ugandans should not be used to enrich a few individuals within the country. And you see, when you go to statistics, you would appreciate that recent reports by the Inspectorate of Government show that we lose over 9 to 10 trillion every year to directly or indirectly, and that is basically 25 billion almost per day that we lose through this. So, and yet the amount we recover is basically a very, very small fraction of what is lost. So, we would love to believe that corruption is that bad. Corruption affects what we call velocity of money. It affects the rate at which money exchanges hands within the country or within an economy, and simply because it is within a few hands of people. So it has a very, very great bearing on the economy and
The well-being of
ways of
communities.
living of Ugandans. So I want to believe that this is something that is really not good. It's bad, and I want to come out and say, when you look at what happened yesterday or what has been happening over time, we want to believe that the Operation Mariza Ufisadi this time round, Tony, you tried to explain it or you spoke it. Let me add and show people that out there that this indeed is going to work. It is something that is we can call a framed, decisive, anti-corruption drive within the system, the government, that is best understood formally as, or informally as a branded single program that focuses on emerging force enforcement postures, reflecting on tightening institutional and political emphasis on tracking, exposing, and importantly, prosecuting alleged misuse of public funds across all government structures. Now, when you look at this operation and what gives you hope that indeed it is going to work is it's a straightforward thing that focuses on public office, not shielding you from accountability. Tony, because you're in public office, this operation will not shield you. Its focus is not to shield any public servant.
That's
from
what you think.
accountability.
That's what you think. But sometimes the reality is otherwise, and this is what they have been saying here.
No,
But what is the reality?
What gives
reality
you?
is
What
that everyone
gives
is
you
being
the?
arrested.
what gives me the comfort
What gives you the comfort?
is
Being
the recent
arrested.
arrests involving the parliamentary staff.
Okay.
Of course, that one is something that has been widely interpreted as something that is visible and the indication that the enforcement is now approaching
Wha-
and
wha-
beginning to take root.
What would you tell people that that's small fish? You know?
Of course, Anderson and listeners there, when you look at the way Operation Marisa Ufisad operates is that when it takes a look at high-profile institutions that have always historically viewed as administratively protected, and when you see now the heads being rooted out, then it speaks volumes. Because initially, ordinarily, we would want to believe that people in such public offices, highly rated, were never touched. I think we are seeing this for the very first time in many years. That
So, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Let him wind his point. Conclude your point, Mr.
and
Lutai.
what I want to bring out, a broader level, a broader look at this is unfolding. The unfolding investigations being interpreted as evidence. You get it? Of maybe that anti-corruption environment is no longer corruption. You know, the approach is evidence that the government institutions are active and visibly pushing to stop this vice. And operation, like I was saying, taking root means at a broader level that what you're seeing as a starting point is initially or ordinarily going to end up even getting to the people that Kato has been talking about here, or the people that have been...
So you think there are going to be more people to be arrested? That's what you think?
Of course,
Certainly, yes.
It is a speculation.
Certainly, yes. Because the efforts will depend not only on arrests and investigations.
That's what you want, but you're not so sure that they will be arrested.
They will be.
Your conviction is they should.
It is his wish that they should be
Why
arrested.
are you so sure?
will be.
Why are you so sure that it's only the innocent
Because
that
it
will
is
be
not.
arrested?
I gave an
And I
example of
wanted
the
to
Anita
say something
scandal.
like this, Kato.
Eh,
This issue is not about tribalism or about which tribe is being arrested. The issue is about what the course of direction that the investigations have taken. If they have started that side, because where would they go? For example, who was working there that is not the allegedly arrested and rearranged? You get it? So you want somebody that is moving along the road to be arrested over this. I want to believe that the direction that is being taken by this operation is entirely objective, is focused, and the people that are behind it entirely have the whistleblowing that they have always wanted taking shape, and trust me, they must be on ground. And by the way, they're actually doing deep sea fishing. Yes.
all right.
It's
That's Mr. Lutaya's comment. Let me go to Job. I want to come to you very quickly. If you can make rejoin us before we go for the break. Job.
No, so for me, I think the point we are trying to emphasize here is that in this fight against corruption, we need to see the political will. And political will really comes from the political leadership.
What does that entail when
So
you
what-
say political?
So what that entails
Mm.
is by the leaders the political leaders who actually are responsible for the organs that, or who are in charge of the organs that play the oversight role in terms of dealing with corruption, need to actually be able to convince us that indeed they are fighting corruption.
But Job, the president said that the president said that for me you can play with me, but with my son on corruption, Muhoozi. So wasn't he telling you that Muhoozi has the political will to fight corruption?
Is he a politician? I'm talking about political leaders. Which political position does he have? I'm talking about political will.
No. The same point he has
for me, as far as I know, General Muhoozi is a soldier. Okay, and soldiers are supposed to be playing other roles. They are not supposed to be playing political roles. So I'm talking about political will. Okay,
Maybe the fight. Maybe the fight against corruption
is part of
Job.
this.
Maybe the fight against corruption is being treated as a security threat or something like that.
Machazi wants to treat it as
actually
such.
corruption can be a security threat. It is actually a security threat. Okay, but you see, the role of the security in fighting corruption is not a political one. Now, when you see when you see security officers playing political roles in the fight against corruption, that is actually abuse of office. And abuse of office is also another form of corruption. So, security officers need not to lock themselves in corruption practices by abusing their offices under the pretext of fighting corruption. Because actually, right now the context might be different, but in the future they could actually pay for such actions. But the point I was making, and before we leave it, is that in this same year, the president has actually been, they say you're speaking with two sides of your mouth. Two sides. This side is saying something else, the other is saying something else. At the beginning of this year, the president himself appeared in Kiamkwanzi, where he was addressing this 12th parliament, and he did two things, okay, which are very phenomenal, and also counter his alleged fight against corruption. The first one is that he actually came up and said, these thieves. Yeah? I will not mention the names, but okay, he said it. Okay, the Namujus, I forgave them. Okay, I'm the one who forgave them when they were being investigated on corruption. Actually, their cases were ongoing in the anti-corruption court. The president himself committed abuse of office by interfering with the judiciary that was prosecuting these people. Okay? That was interference with the judicial process, and in my view, it's another form of corruption. The second form of corruption, and that way, he actually then dampened the public confidence that we all had in him as a champion of anti-corruption, or a champion against corruption. The second thing that he did, those same members that were in that place, after telling us that actually, in corruption, both the giver and the recipient are culpable. Okay? He then went ahead and gave 100 million shillings to all the MPs there. That you actually, on the same day that he made that statement, that both the giver and the recipient are culpable in corruption, he then went ahead and committed political corruption. And he gave these members of parliament,
Under what basis would you describe that as political corruption? Because
it is political corruption. You're bribing politicians. You're a politician who is bribing. Because
bribery means that I'm giving you money for you to do something in return for me, or maybe to cover up something. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that the president gave the money for that purpose?
I can say, you see political corruption.
How long did it
You see political corruption, because you see the president is the head of the executive.
Exactly.
Parliament is the legislature. It is another arm. Okay? So when the president, who is the head of the executive, gives money to individuals in parliament, in the legislature, an organ that is supposed to be playing an oversight function over him,
mind you, they are not being sworn in,
but they were elected members of parliament. He's buying them in advance, and without actually telling us where that money is coming from. Okay? Because you see, we don't know whether that money, he got it from taxpayers' money, and if he got it from our taxes, he actually needs to account to us. But secondly, if he got it from his farm, okay, selling his cows, because I understand he has many cows, he has also said it himself. He needs to be able to give us his declaration of assets returns to the IGG to show us that indeed he has the capacity.
How sure are you that he does?
He has the capacity. No, I'm saying, you see, the president, okay, is the fountain of honor.
Mm.
He's the head of this country. Okay?
Mm.
His declaration of assets should actually be public documents. So he should
They
be
are.
Where are they?
You
Where are they?
Unfortunately,
When the president is talking about corruption,
like any other
he should
public
be able.
servant.
Unfortunately, at the moment, it's only eyes on for the IGG. It's only IGG who can look at those documents.
That's what we are
Which
saying.
is very
Because there are
unfortunate.
issues to do with privacy, but there are also issues to do with the
There's
data
nothing like privacy
data
about it.
protection.
Actually,
That's
you
an
see-
explanation that
You
has
see,
been
the
given.
president, even the house where he stays, is a public place, okay? Because it is State House. State House is not a private residence. State House is a public space, which we should even be knowing what's going on in State House, apart from matters to do with. But now, let me make the last point. Let me make the last point, Tony. Let me make the last point. Now, the other challenge that we have actually with corruption.
You
I
can't
think
know
for
what
me-
is in
I think
Magere.
for
You
me-
want to know what
I think for me,
This is a private property.
Tony, let me make my last point.
Eh.
Let me make my last point here. You see, I think we are looking at symptoms, okay? Because when you're dealing with the crystal borders and whatever, these are people who are even dealing with peanuts that have been passed already in Speaker's office and other places, okay? But you see,
these were people, according to the records, who are receiving billions on their accounts.
from the speakers, from the money which had already been passed, okay?
It was
And
available.
and what I'm
Right.
saying is that we are dealing with symptoms, okay? If you truly fight corruption holistically in this country, you need to be dealing with the entire budgeting process. Ask yourself one question. How did the budget of Parliament move from 600 billion shillings to 1.2 trillion shillings in just a period of 3 years? How did that happen? How did the salary of a member of Parliament, because if you do an average now, a member of Parliament takes home 75 million shillings per month if you did an average. By the end of this term, a member of Parliament will have received between 4.5 and 5 billion shillings. If you do the average of that per month, it is 75 million shillings. Initially, it was 30 million. How did it move from 30 million 5 years back to 75 million shillings? Now, if again you look at the budget, the manner in which it has been progressing, there's a lot of money which is going in places we don't understand. We have so many ghost projects, white elephants, etc. Ask yourself the question. The money which has been going to the Luvoa Specialized Hospital, Pinet, where is the hospital? It is now almost 10 years. Listen, the attacks of this one.
I need
So
you to
at the
go
point,
and
and see what? And the other 10 members of Parliament went there,
And
and
they
they
were
were chased
But
away.
right now, you
And they were chased
right
away.
now when you're
So
in
the
the
point I'm
Senate,
making,
when you're in the
the point I'm
Senate,
making,
just see
let me
it.
finish
Alright.
now. Let me conclude on this.
Spectrum
Let me just
Extra
conclude on
Radio
this.
1FM. Please,
Let me
very
conclude on this.
quickly.
It would actually be interesting, okay, for us to receive accountability for the money that is going to Atiak, to Inspire Coffee, to Amina in northern Uganda, to Magola, Day Farmer, the money that is going in OWC, the money that is going in
local construction
PDM.
company.
Like we get comprehensive accountability,
All right.
because that is where a lot of money is actually going.
All right.
Then we shall know that indeed we are interested in fighting corruption. Otherwise, we are just dealing with symptoms and we are not dealing with the root.
The latest report, which was tabled in Parliament before actually the budget was passed, during the budget process, they did give an update. For instance, Atiak Sugar, production of sugar will start in September this year. We were also given an update on Ruboa, and that they had reached at around 85% construction. You've seen Andrew Mwenda, going to check on Day, and you saw the things he said. And there is another person who has actually threatened to sue Andrew Mwenda. Actually, they have taken legal action against Mwenda for opposition. Let's go for a break now. Let's go for a break now. When we return. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. Our topic today, we are focusing on Operation Maliza Ufisadi. And the question is, has it taken root, looking at what has been happening? People being arrested and prosecuted for corruption. There are people who are saying that's not enough. We need more people to be, arrested and prosecuted, not only at Parliament, but also other departments. We already know that President Yoweri Museveni has instituted an investigation in the Ministry of Works and Transport over the Busega-Mpigi Express Highway project. The initial budget for that road was 600 billion shillings. It shot up to 1.3 trillion, and that project has delayed. And we are told heads are rolling at the Ministry of Works and Transport. There are so many other places where corruption has been cited in this particular country. But the focus now is on Parliament. I have a panel of 4, and they are Mr. Job Kija. is Associate Director at IDEA, that is a civil society organization whose full, full name is Innovations for Democratic Engagement and Action, IDEA. Mr. Moses Lutaya, economist, financial literacy and credit specialist. He's also a lecturer. We also have in studio Mr. Katoto Musime, who is a lawyer. He's also a pundit on legal and governance issues. And Mr. Tony Tumukunde, a lawyer who comes from the NRM party, is also a pundit on legal and governance matters. Very quickly, the rejoinders before we hear from the listener. A number of comments already on the WhatsApp line, but let's hear from Kato. Very quickly, your rejoinder. Response to some of the comments that have been brought out by your colleagues here on the table.
Much said about treating the symptoms, treating the pain, and not finding out to treat the root
disease.
cause. If you have headache and you take Panadol, you have treated the headache for then, but it will not last forever because you have not treated the cause of that headache. That's what we are doing with corruption. And maybe to add that we have limited this corruption into the people that have been arraigned in court for taking billions and trillions of money. No, it should be beyond that. If you are a public officer and your official time to be in office is 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever it should be, you come at 9, you come at 11, you leave at 1, that is also corruption. And or this should also be going not only to the people that have been already arrested. I am happy that, yes, some changes have been made. Some attempts have been made by the operation you have said, but it is not enough.
What do you mean
to
it
the
is not
extent,
enough?
To the extent that we have not touched the root cause of what is causing all this corruption.
What is the root cause?
What is causing all this embezzlement? It is because some people are sleeping on the job. In terms of accountability, but you cannot take 40 years. You cannot take 40 years.
You are not going to come out and simply do a bang.
You cannot take 40 years.
Let's
You
listen
cannot
to one
take
another.
40
We'll
years.
come to you.
Take 40 years building a process, and then you think you will just act in one term or 1 month. No, you are just playing around with the thinking of the people. And
But
the
how
Ugandans.
long? How long has it taken the corruption?
Tony, I'm the one asking the
Isn't
question.
it still there? I have given you an example, accounting officer of Parliament, Adolf Mwesige. Is he taken? Isn't he the one who signs all this money to be leaving the accounts to go to wherever it is going? You are only targeting the small fish because you know that your power might be controlled somewhere where you don't want to trigger. You have seen
Adolf
different
Mwesige,
statements.
according to the information we have, that he went to the headquarters of CID and recorded a statement.
You have brought me to the very point I wanted to make in terms of if it's sanctioned, the person is arraigned, remanded. It takes you 6 to 5 months before even a statement is made. That's one point I want to make. In those many cases I'm talking about, they are not corruption-related cases. No, these are political-related cases. These are cases that are just very minor. But if you have looked at how the corrupt people who are alleged to be involved in corruption scandals are being treated from the time of the alleged arrest to the time of being arraigned in court, and these other politically related victims have also been treated in the same manner, you can tell that this one is just smearing and wanting to massage the corrupt people. That you have made so many people believe that instead of being involved in a political motivated charge or offense, I would rather be involved and implicated in a corruption charge because the treatment would be different. Today, I saw so many photos on social media bringing out different people on how they are being treated. The one that shocked me is how a senior journalist, Timothy Kariejira, was on handcuffs. How we saw the former road mayor, Elias Rukwago, on handcuffs because of the charges they are being alleged to have committed, and how you saw Chris Obore jumping out of the vehicle, running everywhere when he's implicated in incident, and Dr. Miriam Matembe abducted, and that's all. These are people that are charged with politically motivated offenses.
But you know, Kariejira was moved from.
Yeah, he was moved from Poto, abducted overnight, driven to Kampala, taken to court. He is taken to court, but on hand. Do you want me to show you the photo? Him on handcuffs, and you see how Chris Obore and his team were jumping out of
So
that.
you want to say Chris Obore
But
was
does
arrested?
it,
The point I am making
does it
is
change the fact that these people are actually being prosecuted?
They are prosecuted, but I'm talking about the will.
The end justifies the means.
I am talking about the will and how these different people are being treated. That you are making people think that being alleged to have committed a corruption-related case.
Kato, to help you, is that those individuals you're making reference to are being persecuted.
and these ones are being prosecuted. So that's the difference. So if you're being
It is a
prosecuted,
very big difference.
you're given VIP treatment. If you're being persecuted, you're treated like that.
But if I am treated the way Chris Obore has been treated from the office of the IGG where he was arrested from to court, and then you see how Timothy Kariejira has been treated from Chira Division Police to Chira Court, then I would rather be involved in corruption, and that is the cause of that we are talking about. That is not being treated.
So the issue is about
for you.
The issue is about the
No. It's not about being handcuffed or the rest, but for you to create an impression for every Ugandan to understand that you are actually committed to fighting corruption, like you say in this Chisanja. Treat the corrupt people as you treat other political prisoners. Treat the corrupt people without any favor.
What did you want to see? You wanted them to be beaten? I don't understand.
I don't care about people to be beaten because they have been
exactly.
But treat people the same way. The way you treat Timothy Kariejira going to court, treat the same way Chris Obore to court. The way you treat Lukwago,
the difference is
treat
the
the same way.
handcuffs. The difference is the
It's
handcuffs.
only the handcuffs.
What exactly was different? Because, like you said, these people went to the IGG's office to record statements, and from there they were told, we are taking you to court. Probably the IGG does not have handcuffs.
No, the IGG has actually procedural powers, has police under it, and they must take. The point I want to finish with, the point I want to finish with is that I don't call upon people to be on handcuffs each and every other time. But don't use the selective application of law, the selective application of measures on how you handle people that are related to political charges differently, and the people that are in corruption scandals that are even more dangerous than the political prisoners are being treated. That's the point I am making.
All right, let's go to Tony, and then we'll go to Mr. Lutaya. Very quickly, Tony.
You see, it is interesting how Kato, you see, Kato has an opposition background, so he makes everything oppositional. But we know that the IGG, the cases are investigated by different investigating bodies. IGG is a different investigating body from the investigating body that arrested Kariejira. Uganda Police did that for Timothy, while IGG has its own prosecutors and the police therein. So the way you cannot tell me that because
it's the same Uganda police.
Yes,
it's the same Uganda police.
But you cannot. But the mods, the IGG has very good cars, better than even those of police. So you're going to tell me that because Chris Obore was driven in a better car, the prosecution was not actually serious. But also you saw your own client in Ruzira abusing wardens and laughing at them. So you want to compare because now if Chiza Besigye and Obed Rutare are not laughing and abusing, you want to say probably Miriam Matembe was freer than the Chiza Besigye. So for me that does not point to the seriousness of the prosecution. But you see, Job speaks about political will. You see, the will to fight corruption should actually exceed political will. It should be psychological, it should be social. Anyone that has the will to fight it. The best example I will give you, the biggest opposition candidate in this country. Very many people have raised that his brother is one of the eat of money for cards. He has never even investigated that. Does he have the will? But
there was an investigation that took place.
Phone when I'm speaking these important points.
There was an investigation that was
points were raised. Points were raised. And you see politics and you see corruption. What you think that is small might be big to someone. So the political will should be actually for each and everyone. He says that police, the army, those people should not have the political will to fight corruption. For me,
say that. I'm simply saying that the security officers have their role to play in the fight against corruption.
Exactly.
Their role is investigation. It is not to make it is not to make toxic political statements about corruption.
No. But if I may ask you, the arrests that have been made under the instigation of the CDF, where have you seen toxic political statements against corruption? When he says,
can you give us an example of an arrest that has been instigated by the CDF?
The CDF,
there are so many.
Let's hear him.
The CDF clearly came out on Parliament. He said all the people that have been misusing funds at Parliament must be dealt with.
But we have also seen. We have also officially seen a directive from President Yoweri Museveni to the IGG. So you want to tell us it's the CDF that is making the orders, or it's the president?
Tony, you are misinterpreting that.
I'm not misinterpreting
it. The fight against corruption should be for all Ugandans. The example is, if the CDF comes out and says people have been eating money for road construction, and he points it out, how best do you know whether they discussed with the commander-in-chief. He's a presidential advisor, senior presidential advisor.
Special
On special
Special
operations.
operations.
Tony one
Yes,
question.
it's a senior. You can,
On
can
what
I-
platform?
can
On
I-
what platform did he say that thing
On
about
X.
arresting Parliament?
Oh,
Was it-
yeah, he has
On
been
X
invited. No, no,
for
wait,
Anita.
on what platform did Agora demand for arrest?
but I'm
On
saying,
which platform did Agora demand for arrest?
Is that the same platform where I saw nationalist women being talked about?
Let's conclude your point, Tony, before we hear from Mr.
Then
Mutaya.
you see, I don't want Kato to come and tell people here that when they arrest you and leave you in neckties in your suits and another one is brought with handcuffs, then the arrest of handcuffs is serious. No.
Yes, it is.
No. The handcuff of the arrest of handcuff, you can actually reach police and probably even be given bail the same day. Yes,
That's very
we have people here like the opposition people like Tabs. No handcuffs were seen. Then he came out and
And they
he
were
told-
there.
No,
Actually, even a
no,
photo is here.
No.
All right.
What you're seeing is as is taken to be given bond, but we have other people that have been arrested with handcuffs, even with suits, and no bond has been given.
In
so
a
it
nutshell.
is the seriousness
In a
of
nutshell.
the evidence that they have against you. In a nutshell, the president of Uganda has now started no sleep against corruption.
All right. Mr. Lutaya, let's hear from you very quickly.
Thank you, Anderson. And this is interesting. I want to come out very, very clearly once again and inform Mr. Kato here that and the rest, the government has will. There is will to fight corruption. But like I told you earlier on, it is a process. And we're already seeing the process. The process has aims of strengthening and improving transparency within almost all government institutions. And we are seeing that one taking shape. Improving or checking public budgets to know and monitoring, during this Sanja, monitoring is key. But importantly, reinforcing the independence of the other oversight institutions. IGG, you can see how the president keeps supporting, how the government keeps supporting
What has been
the
that
investigations
different from the other
within those other institutions. And the one thing that we should not forget, or we should actually bring out here, is also how government, it's only that people forget very fast, because we've seen many times how government is trying to enhance banking compliance mechanisms through checking of accounts, through URA. I think you've had that. You get it? Of course, the issue is to manage that money that comes into the country. You get it? And again, the other important thing is maybe the question that would come out here is that money moved from different accounts, large sums of money, maybe what we can ask, but which is something that is also being enhanced, the banking compliance operations and mechanisms. Where were the banks? Because you see those accounts having kind of, maybe they are red flagged in a way, and maybe at that point, you see reports moving to BOU, and importantly, Financial Intelligence Authority getting to come in and giving guidance, because these were patterns. It was not once. These were patterns of transactions. So you would see, but even if it was a single transaction, it would still be what? Red flagged at the start. So I think with what is happening, that is aimed at strengthening and improving transparency, capacity building within these institutions, and of course the most recent arrests, you can see that the direction is very, very clear. It's fighting corruption. Government has will. It's just a process that is taking shape, and surely sooner than later, so many things are going to take.
But what has been done
Moses,
differently?
to steal part of your time and respond to Job. Job raised a very important allegation that the president giving 100 million.
An important allegation.
Yes. That
Are you treating it as an allegation?
yes, they received the money, but I want to respond to that.
Okay.
That you see, just after campaigns, DNRM saved 13 billion that we remained with. The president as the chairman was meeting NRM legislators, not from any other political party. So if the chairman of the NRM party and the treasurer extends a bunch of money that is for the political party, and the president gives it out to the members as support for having come to Chankwanzi, because these are members that probably had become impecunious after the campaigns, that is not picking money from the government coffers. And I wanted him to know, NRM has 13 billion that is saved just after the campaign. So if it is given, let the public not think that the president is giving out money.
Do you think it's necessary for the president to come out and clarify on the source of the money?
It is necessary, and the president has always come out and clarified on the source of money that he has given out.
Okay.
He has always come out.
Let me
It's Mr. Lutaya who was on the floor.
Mr. Lutaya, please allow me just a few seconds of your time. I want to ask Tony, if the NRM...
You want me to respond with a yes or no?
No. If the NRM indeed saved 13 billion shillings from this campaign,
yes.
Number one, how much did they spend?
You see, we spent as much as we could use to win the election.
How much was spent? How much? And then secondly, where did that money come from? What is the source of that money?
From our members.
How much was?
From our
how
members.
much? It saved
From
13
our
billion.
members.
How much did they
Job,
spend?
don't
And then secondly, wait.
Pretend as if
Secondly,
NRM does not
Pretend
have
as if you
Wait,
don't know where NRM gets
please
its
tell
money.
me, where did the NRM get the money from and how much did they spend on the campaign? And then number two,
Okay.
you're talking about 13 billion shillings. A total of 40 billion shillings, when we did the math, was given out to those MPs.
Yes.
So 40 minus 13 leaves you with 27 billion.
Yes.
Where did the surplus 27 billion come from?
But
So
you see,
let me answer the first question. The first question you said, how did the NRM get the billion shillings that is spent?
The first question is how much?
How much? How much I cannot be certain on this show. But I am very certain that the NRM can source for any funds just enough to make them win the election from its partners, from its business friends, from its members. So that is, a political party can source for money. It's not an offense. But also, secondly, you are saying that if the NRM, the president gave money, mind you, the president did not give 100 million. He gave each MP as a deposit of 20 million.
Out of how much?
Yes.
How much did he commit?
It's
on record. Tony,
Yes.
the NRM is supposed to provide returns to the Electoral Commission on how much they spent on the campaigns and where they got it from. Has that been done?
All right. Let's go back to Mr. Lutaya. Mr. Lutaya, conclude your point.
Let me tell him how maybe I'm going to be generic, but I need to come out maybe clear about NRM here. But I'll be generic and be clear. Okay, I'll be generic, but of course there are so many ways how
But be
all
truthful,
political
right?
parties.
Be
I'm being
truthful.
truthful.
Let him.
Yes.
You're
Let me be
protected,
truthful
Mr. Lutaya.
and be very clear. NRM, like any other party, has statutory government funding under the Political Parties and Organizations Act. Now, that is one. It gets its money through that channel. Of course, like NUP MPs remit money. NRM has members, the biggest number in the parliament, and they do monthly remittances. You get it? Because they're on that what? They're on that card. Internal primary nomination fees. Those could be also additional funds collected during the what? And of course, like he said, high-end fundraisings, where the well-wishers can come in and also, you see, we have a challenge to believe that it's only the opposition that will always have what? Funds. Through
That's an
being
allegation
given
and an
you know.
assertion you want to make.
So that can be. But back to the other point, Anderson.
Do you want us to finish that point?
Can you allow him to conclude?
Who can finish it?
Conclude your point.
Because you said generic and clear. You've been generic. You've not been
And I
clear.
said you.
So
Because I want to ask you- I want
okay,
to ask
the
you-
NRM, through those sources,
Job,
can
I'm not
fund
going
money.
to allow you to ask that question.
Through those sources, the NRM is able to obtain money that the president at any one time, upon decision is taken at SEC, give out to its members of parliament.
And that money must be declared.
But
Like
you see,
it
you
applies
see,
to
you
any
see,
other
it is
political
not
parties.
yet time for filing returns.
All right,
NRM.
we are going to go to the comments coming in from the listeners via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. There are quite a number of points that have already been made, and I'm going to begin by reading them out. Kauma Digo in Imitiana, good evening, Spectrum Xtra. Please pursue further on the shillings 100 million allegedly given to MPs elect. If it was not political corruption, what services were rendered by the recipient to warrant that huge payment? There's a man in the studio speaking without facts. How does he claim an MP earns an average salary of 75 million? This claim is ridiculous and scandalous. Does he know the difference between salaries and emoluments? MP salary is uniform across the board, which is 15 million. Emoluments differ depending on the mileage. Eric, listening in from Saudi Arabia. Another comment coming in from Mohaire Peter, who is listening in from Ntungamo. I think the Permanent Secretary Accounting Officer, who is the clerk to Parliament, Honorable Adolf Mwesige, is responsible for every coin that is released from the bank account of Parliament. He should be arrested first before arresting the Obore and the group.
Thank you.
Innocent writes in and says, Spectrum Xtra, there's nothing that should excite us with the arrest so far until a conviction is secured. The DPP IGG can lose interest anytime in the cases. And then we have another comment. Only those not near corruption can talk about it. Ask Chris Obore, who was a very tough anti-corruption firebrand. Tribalism, corruption is also tribalizing corruption is also corruption in itself. Now, talking about Chris Obore, there's a comment that has been making rounds on social media about a comment he made in 2019, to be specific, on the 4th of December 2019, and it was on X, where he wrote and said, with all the ethical infrastructure in place, IGG, Ethics and Integrity Ministry, Auditor General, Internal Auditor General, CID, churches, mosques, etc. Why does corruption keep rising in Uganda? We have normalized fraud and deception. Those institutions need re-examination. That was a comment made by Chris Obore in 2019. Spectrum Xtra, it looks like the more highly paid public servants are, the more corrupt. The more a public servant is highly paid, the more corrupt they get. That's a comment from Boki Fred there. We have another comment. I started knowing Kisanja Hakuna Kulala recently when IGG managed to prove Ugandan parliament. I've got some MPs who are thieves, not even corrupt. Luzira should come closer to the 12th parliament. That is Juma listening in from Busega. Another comment, Okelo Patrick Bonyo, still in Busega. Uganda is blessed with such MPs who really dedicate their time to such. My prayer is that after that bill is through, please amend the law which bans election and democracy with other related activities for at least 50 years to allow Ugandans as a state to concentrate on development. Its members, other than petty politics where there is no fairness. We have another comment that comes in from another listener here. That is Okitwi Joseph listening in from Chambogo. On the issue of corruption, this is just playing to the gallery by the sitting government. If at all they are fighting corruption, by now many other people, including former the deputy speaker and Triple A, should all be, and Adolphe Mwesige too would be where Obore is. The Teso Parliamentary Group ought to be preventing such a things to befall more people from the region. Government is finishing Triple A to the roots, nothing else. For God and my stomach. That's how he caps his comment there. Aine Richard listening in for Bushenyi writing us, good evening Spectrum Xtra. For me to be genuinely persuaded, it is imperative that any individual implicated in corruption scandals be subjected to resolute and compromising accountability. Proceedings must advance to their logical conclusion, ensuring that those found guilty not only refund misappropriated resources, but also face the full force of the law. The process must commence with those already and must for only tangible progress, not the mere proliferation of headlines can restore confidence. Demonstrable action will serve as a formidable deterrent to others who might contemplate similar transgressions. Short of that, Operation Malisa Ufisadi will be meaningless. That's a comment from Richard Aine listening in from Bushenyi. And then another comment here. Thank you, Kenneth, for airing this program. The way people talk about corruption makes it look like a joke. But corruption is a contagious and amorphous and is responsible for all problems worldwide, from global wars, unemployment, poor health services, and others. Because it is so contagious, nobody can resist the temptation, so we should talk of reducing corruption. The president was right to call IGG to go slow so that stolen resources do not end up going to developed countries. For corruption, only one prayer can work. That is a comment that comes in from Mukwana, who is listening in from Chiwanga in Mukono. Well, there are so many other comments coming in. I'll be reading them as we continue with this discussion, because this is the reason why we actually have this kind of discussion, for the public to get on board and also contribute to the fight against corruption and so many other things. Another comment, good evening Radio 1. Anyone dealing with corrupt people should go ahead, but until I hear some names from the other side of the country, I will not agree with what is happening concerning the so-called fighting corruption in this country. There are people who are being put to die for others. Then Francis from Patongo Town Council writes in and says, good evening Spectrum guests, we cannot afford to arrest all corrupt officers because they are Even more than police officers, all Uganda needs is to have a combined functional framework: education, strict institutional accountability, transparent financial systems, and empowered citizenry to carry out oversight. That's a comment there from Francis, who is listening in from Patong. Another comment comes in. It says, I write this not out of hatred for any individual, but out of love for my beloved Pearl of Africa. Uganda deserves transparency, fairness, and equal treatment before the law, regardless of one's position, status, or influence. The rule of law is the foundation of any democratic society, and no one should be above it. As I watch these developments, my heart cries out for Uganda. I long for a nation where justice is impartial, accountability is universal, and every citizen can trust that the law protects all equally. May our leaders uphold the principles of fairness and integrity to the future of generations, so that the future generation can inherit a stronger and more just Uganda. Let's go for a quick break now. When we return, we'll have reflection on some of these comments that have been put across, but also continue and wind up this discussion. Spectrum Extra continues after these messages. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90. The panel of four reviewing the major events of the week, but we're focusing on the fight against corruption, looking at how Operation Maliza Ufisadi is moving following the arrest of staff at Parliament and a number of responses and comments that have come in from members of the public. The guest tonight, Mr. Katoto Musime, lawyer, also pundit on legal and governance matters; Mr. Job Kija, Associate Director at Innovations for Democratic Engagement and Actions; Mr. Tony Tumkunde, lawyer who comes in from the NRM, pundit on legal and governance issues; Mr. Moses Lutaya, economist, financial literacy and credit specialist, who is also a lecturer at Uganda Institute of Bankers and Financial Services. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your moderator. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090090. I'll begin with you, Mr. Moses Lutaya, very quickly. If there is anything you want to respond to, it could be from your colleagues, but also the comments that have come in from the listeners, very quickly.
Thank you, Anderson. Of course, like I was saying earlier on, I'll go back to the fact that there is will to fight corruption in this country by the system and regime. I'll give you an example, Anderson. I'll take you back to I think it is sometime last year or this year, start of this year, when you had Chris Obore here on Spectrum. Sometime, and of course that's during the time the Agora exhibitions took shape. That's the time he came out and called that campaign hogwash. I don't know if you recall that. Say that is hogwash, that is filibustering, among other things that he used. Quite very strong words. But because the government has will, and we know this is a process, that was never taken for granted. Whatever exhibitions came through were never taken for granted. And amidst the Speaker of Parliament then bringing in and doing ping pong here and there about what these campaigners were, of course she was trying to move away from objectivity by trying to say that these are bomb shafters who are trying to fight her here and there. The government kept an eye on them, kept an eye on this, and that is what exactly we are seeing now as the results. If it was not that it was a process, you know, when you hear something, a whistleblower or something coming up like this, you don't simply rain on somebody and get them. You take your time. By the time government comes through to this level, it has done its investigations thorough and thorough. So, to the listeners and to the panelists here, Kato, Mr. Kaija here, the fact is it's the right direction being taken, and we're on the right track, and this corruption will be. My issue here that I would wish to come in is that BOU, when these transactions happen, BOU and Financial Intelligence Authority need to come out and give information, because banks are meant to report any big transactions that are out of context, any outliers. So why at what point did an account receive 1.2 billion once, yet it had never received such an amount of money? And withdrawn in cash. And withdrawn in cash. Such monies are meant to be transferred. But of course, importantly, the source of money must be explained. And before that money is withdrawn, red flag it. Financial Intelligence Authority should give a go-ahead.
They're actually doing it for others. You receive
Yeah.
money from abroad, you transact here in big sums, they will actually
If
freeze
it's 10
the
million.
money before you explain. But you raise a very important question. Where were they when this was happening?
Now, their mandate is not, they're not doing their mandate. That's where they, but because government is also trying to strengthen the institutions through which it is managing this, surely we believe maybe going forward, but these questions should come out to the executive, that Financial Intelligence Authority should do their work, missed out on this, like one of the listeners checked in, this money deprives Ugandans of good schools, good health, good roads, good farming inputs, among other things. But now the executive should task the Financial Intelligence Authority, the BOU, where
But even in the banks where these people had
the banks
private
themselves,
accounts.
where these monies were transacted,
Mm.
the executive must come in during the investigations. IGG should get into play with this.
So
Maybe
there's still so many other people.
There are so many
who
other
have
people that
questions
need
to
to
answer.
be touched,
Mm.
because the bank officials, FIA, BOU, are they party to these transactions? Are they party to these proceeds of corruption?
Mm.
The investigations need to be widened, made broader, and we have this conclusively handled.
Any other
Thank
person
you.
who wants
Yes.
to make a
So
rejoinder? Yes, Job.
let me start by, first of all, pointing to a point that he made about the president acting on the speaker who called the anti-corruption crusaders, bomb shafters and whatever. I think I recall vividly well that when the speaker was being exposed, plus the other people in parliament, okay, were being exposed in this corruption around parliament, and she was actually sanctioned by the US, UK, and whatever. The president appeared on a public platform, okay, and he defended viciously the Speaker of Parliament on these allegations, and he was defending her from the anti-corruption crusaders, saying these are agents of imperialists. Okay.
Was giving her rope.
President
Wait,
Museveni.
He was giving her rope.
I don't care whether he was
Let's allow
giving
Job
a
to
rope
make
or
his
string.
point. Let's
okay?
allow Job to make his
But
point.
all I am saying, and that's why when I talk about political will, this is what I'm referring to. It's on record. At least if you search on Google, wherever, you'll find this evidence there. The president viciously defended the speaker.
Actually, it was in
Okay.
Bukedea when they
In
were
Bukedea,
officially
yes.
opening up
Yes.
that sports stadium.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
So the president really defended the speaker. So you can't come here and start convincing me that the president reacted to this public campaign that was ongoing and acted. Secondly,
Maybe he got more information
Second.
later and
That's
changed
what-
his
that's-
mind.
that's what I wanted to tell
yeah.
you.
So you see, because the president, indeed, by the
Because
way,
after that,
Job.
we saw the president meeting their British High Commissioner, but also writing letters
Exactly.
to different
He took action.
entities
What
to
happened to the
establish
letters?
if Anita Among had
Owned
a house
it.
in London
Exactly.
and so forth.
So let me make this point, okay?
Mm.
That people were harassed during that crusade against the corruption at Parliament. People were locked actually up to now. They think they're on bail. Kato, you are their lawyer, not so?
Yeah,
Have
most
the
of them.
charges been dropped?
None
And
of
actually-
none of the files actually proceeded. They were all dismissed for want of prosecution.
They were all, but I meant to understand there's actually someone who was locked up and is still in. I need to find the
Yeah, there-
Machete or something like I don't know.
But he's not to the fight.
Machete is not connected
Okay,
to this.
anyway, I need to check. But so all the anti-corruption
There was,
crusaders,
there
they-
was-
all the charges were dropped. Okay, but the point I'm making is this, Tony, that by now the president actually, in order for him to encourage citizens, because apparently fighting corruption is not for the president alone; it is for all of us. Okay, but when for us we come out fight corruption, what are we seeing? We are seeing people arrested. By the way, the people who were, I think, Kato, you are their lawyer. You can confirm here. Some of those people said actually they were violated in the process of arrest and even detention. There were stories I was hearing. I would like to verify them one day. But and this is on public record. So the president by now should be saying, you know what, you anti-corruption crusaders, by the way, we are sorry. The Agoras you are talking about, you said that the president wrote to them a love letter recently. I would like to see the president actually come out and publicly really encourage the Agoras of this world. He should post it on his socials, okay? He should also really encourage the others. But what are we seeing? This week, anti-corruption crusaders are at CID. Institutions that you are referring to, by the way, you asked the question, where were they as all this was ongoing? What we have been seeing, actually, at least the information we are privy to, is that these institutions have actually abandoned their role, the FIAs of this world, CID, CMI and whatever, or following up in the actual money laundering that has been happening, and they are harassing civil society organizations, NGOs, as we speak.
Anderson, I
Listen,
think that pushes the fact
listen.
that the investigation
As we
should be
speak.
broadened.
As we speak.
That's what
no,
you
no,
say.
no, no, no. Investigate the real thieves, okay? Because you
Don't
see,
worry, Zeke.
even the files,
What
even
is
the
what
files,
is saying? There's a possibility that there was collusion with
Exactly.
people from those institutions.
That shows
also, I think those
incompetence in the
institutions
Those
should be
institutions.
investigated.
Element
That's
of
what you meant.
that shows incompetence in the
Yeah, yeah.
institutions.
Are they compromised? Are they conflicted?
Thank you. And my challenge is, because as we speak,
Because
accounts,
it could be a syndicate.
yeah, because as we speak, accounts of civil society organizations, civil society leaders,
Even
who actually
individual
have been
accounts.
fighting corruption, including the agoras, even individual accounts, have actually been frozen to date. These people are reporting every day to CID to record all manner of statements because of the work they are doing in fighting corruption. So right now, if the president really wants to convince us and build public confidence, he should actually be setting these institutions free, the agoras of this world, this and whatever. Let me finish.
I want to assure
And
John
then-
that consistency is now taking shape.
You see,
Let me,
All right.
okay, the
Very
second,
quickly.
the final point that I want to make
Mm.
that is that what we need actually right now in the fight against corruption is to strengthen the laws against corruption. Because at the moment,
What is
we have-
missing?
at the moment, what we have, I think the maximum sentence is 14 years, and then in terms of
They
jail
can also
time,
ban you from.
Forfeiture.
They can also ban you from
Forfeiture of
public
the
office for
property.
10 years.
No, forfeiture of property is not yet there. We don't have a loan asset recovery.
Mm.
Actually, what we have is that you can. I think the fine is a maximum of 75 million shillings. So
We do
actually,
have a law.
which law
That
is
law
that?
is
Which law?
even the
Does it
IGG
have
has power to forfeit. Even the
forfeit?
IGG has the power to forfeit the property.
Okay, but you
Still
see,
recently, the
Season
Mitiana
for
movement,
faith.
something has been,
Okay.
you know,
which one?
Mitiana.
Which case?
This other,
Okay.
that's
Okay,
Okay, make your point, make your point.
Yeah. So I think really you need to strengthen the law such that you make it really unattractive to engage in corruption.
All right.
Because if you engage in corruption and all you can serve is 14 years, and after the 14 years, you can. I saw there's a guy who has 14 billion on the charge sheet. So 14 billion, you can say 1 billion per year. I mean, if I can,
14 years.
I can see
All
that
right.
man and I go. Final point. My colleagues here, Tony and Moses. I asked a question about the money that NRM spent, and he actually said you really said so many things. You spoke generically, and you failed to be specific.
They try to
But
point.
they-
They try to
they
point
try
out
to point out
where NRM gets
I
its money.
pointed
They
to
try to
the
point out, but you see, I look at Tony.
government funding.
Actually, I listened to your
All the
answer. Now I'm
political
giving you.
parties
He's
I'm
giving
giving my
his.
analysis.
He's giving his rebuttal.
Yeah, I'm giving him my now. You see, I take Moses and Tony to be people that should be privy to certain information in the NRM, such that you don't come here and start talking generically. Because you should actually be telling us that, for these elections, the NRM collected this much money from members. It collected this
This
much
in-
money from
from
saving
donations.
cards.
Mm.
It collected this much money from donations of business partners. And so this is the amount of money. Shouldn't even be waiting for the filing.
And actually
At,
spent this.
and then spent this, okay?
This is the balance.
And this is the balance. And in that regard, this balance, we had nothing to spend it on. Interestingly, you don't even have an NRM house. Okay? You've been talking about building an NRM house. You don't have it, but you're giving away money. They call it that, to members of parliament who are going to be earning 75 million shillings per month. And let me know, the final thing I'm going to say about this corruption, the final thing I'm going to say about this is a comment that was made by Muhaire from Saudi Arabia. He tried to vulgarize the point that I made about MPs earning an average of 75 million shillings. I want to help him understand how you make averages. And I didn't talk about salary. I said earning. Whether they are emoluments or whatever, a vehicle, we are meant to understand that next week or the other, they will be receiving 300 million shillings for vehicles, okay? If you get the 300 million plus the money they get for wardrobe, house rent, fuel and whatever, and you sum all it up together, by the end of this term, they are going to have received between 4.5 billion shillings and 5 billion shillings per MP. Minimum will be 4.5, maximum will be 5 billion.
All right,
now, when you get that money,
Mm.
you divide by 5, okay? 5 billion divided by 5, that means 1 billion per year. 1 billion divided by 12 months, it means 75 million shillings per month. That is how much MPs are going to take home per month on average, starting last month when they got their first salary.
All right, let's go to Mr. Kato very quickly, and then we'll roll around the table for your responses. But Kato, you can come in now if you have any.
Yeah, very.
not rebutted, most especially at the NRM house.
You will come. You will come.
After
Your time
we are
will
coming
come,
to
but I don't know why you're even interested in the house because it's not there. That's the truth and the fact. You see, when all these people are making comments, I love the fact that they are realistic on what is happening in terms of fighting corruption. 2019, 4th December, President Museveni closed these Kampala roads. He made a very good match with so many people surrounding him. That was the anti-corruption walk. 2019 December. 1 week after that, a group of youth activists from the alternative social movement paraded the same from here in Tebe Road traffic light. They were arrested, abandoned, spent 2 weeks, months. Even now, the case is still in court. Fighting corruption, but they were doing the real anti-corruption work. How people that want... Yes, why not?
Conclude your point, please.
People that were supporting and following the call of President Museveni to join him and have a walk to fight corruption were ended up in Rosera. Up to now, their case is still on. 5 years later, July, the Gen Zs came out to say, but you, man, you called us in 2019 to join you in fighting corruption. We are here, and we are marching to corruption. We are marching to Parliament, a corruption enterprise and a scene of crime. They ended up in Rosera. Some spent months and there. The point I want you to understand is that even what they say is not what they do. They say something different and do something different. The will from the politicians, including the head of the state of this country, is not to fight corruption. When you talk about the process and the time that you need to take, Moses, I want you to be realistic and understand that from the time the NRM made the 10-point program, fighting corruption is number 6. How many years down the road? Do we still need time? Do we still have the process that we are building 40 years plus? From the 10-point program, it is number 6. To remind you about it. But there is a listener here who made a comment in terms of how do we make these things look sometimes religious. The problem we have here is that once a corrupt person is caught or arrested, you will see his religious members come out, including the archbishops and the rest heading the congregation, that you see this is our person, yes, he's corrupt, he's a thief, but we stand with him. You will see the religious leaders, you will see people from different regions, different tribes surrounding him. This is our thief.
Surprisingly, even lawyers stand with them.
Even lawyers, but I don't want to talk about lawyers because lawyers are exercising their duty to represent their clients, not that they are not.
The others are also exercising their to associate.
This is our thief because he's a Catholic. This is our thief because he's a Protestant. This is our thief because he's a Muslim. They will even go to the president. They go.
Our fellow
They will say this one is a Munyankore. He's our thief, but he's a Munyankore. They will parade buses to come here. Tony can testify that when these people that were
parade buses?
No. At least you were around the anti-corruption court that time when the Mabati scandal was there. You saw buses that came from different regions to escort different candidates who are politicians supporting this. But by the time we don't start actually to isolate ourselves from these thieves and corrupt people, we shall not fight corruption. Because these corrupt people come from our homes, they come from our districts, they come from our regions, and this is how we end up shielding them. And they will have the urge of stealing more because they want to appease you when they attend church, because you are making a fundraising to build the church, and these are the thieves because they have a lot of money. They will be given front seats.
All right.
But if you avoid all this and hold them accountable, because the Constitution, Article 17, gives us that as a duty as citizens to combat corruption. But if you side with the corrupt people and the thieves, then you are failing your duty, and that should be punishable by the law. Right. Until we identify and understand that that's what we need to do, corruption is still here.
All right, very quickly, I'll read out some few comments and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. I respect to Xtra. Good evening. The current pretense by the state to be fighting corruption is laughable. The very actors claiming to fight corruption have been its worst perpetrators, breaking every law in the book, thriving on the largest state house budget, abusing every public institution in this country, and causing to pseudo-foreign investors in exchange for kickbacks. That is the true corruption that has hindered this country's development, not the current political posturing. That's Ben listening in from Chira. Lawrence in Zigati, Spectrum Extra, the fighter, should begin with appointments. Who works where, because the majority are well connected and cannot easily be reprimanded. Then we have another comment. Good evening, Kenneth. There is no will to fight corruption. This has become a song. There are so many forms of corruption. The public is only aware of what they see, but there is a lot unknown. But if someone was to go into the details of the government contracts, you can run mad. Busega Express is just a drop in the ocean. Let's go in those classified contract sectors like energy, works, etc. They need forensic audit, but who will do it? I see no one. Institutions of accountability themselves are dead. So who will investigate who? All institutions are totally dead. Someone builds on Nachivo channel and life continues. Once there is no rule of law, the rest is English. Look at the Mabati thieves walking free. Someone is charged with corruption but appointed a minister. You find Ugandans reporting corruption are the ones who are harassed instead. Corruption is a governance and leadership issue. That's Edison listening in from here in Kampala. Audit, Rice and I appreciate the firm action against corruption by the government because corruption cripples our economy. Let the operations continue such that leaders focus on development only. IGG currently due, but one of the guests in the studio sympathizing with the corrupt members of parliament, that should be treated equally like other political prisoners. How, where, why? Yet those are the people killing service delivery. They deserve maximum treatment in jail. Juma listening in from Busega. Good evening, Kenneth Lukwaganda guest. Thanks for the program. When I was young, they taught us from village schools about how parliament looks to be a good institution. But right now, the parliamentarians have lost it because of the way things are happening in their premises. The number of MPs, cabinet, and state ministers causing the alarm. Where has this thing corruption come from? That's Simon listening in from Chireka. One last comment. Good evening. I'm listening to you from Gulu. As always, if we are serious about fighting corruption, the Tokos should have been awarded medals during the Heroes' Day. Otherwise, I see it is very performative for the following. Corruption in Uganda is a very systematic and very long chain. High-profile raids, very little follow-through. Selective enforcement, e.g., whereas the airline scandal ended. The corrupt are usually appointed or forgiven by the powers that be. Thanks for the wonderful discussion. Lastly but not least, I think let corruption be fought and let's not mix it with politics. We need realignment. That is Mawanda, listening again from Matuga Mabanda. Lastly, good evening, Spectrum Extra. Thanks for to Council Kato. All what is being done is one-sided. Look at Lukwago versus Matembe. Matembe won, but look at Tabs versus Noop guys. Tabs won. Look at other corruption scandals. People from a certain region win against other regions. That's Benjamin there with that particular comment. There is one listener here who was reminding me about one of the biggest stories of the week in the parliament when the Speaker of Parliament said that witchcraft is about to finish him in office. But anyway, that's going to be a discussion of another day. Tumukunde, let's pick up from there.
Okay, on a serious note, I don't want to believe in witchcraft.
But the man has raised it.
It would be the speaker's antic to strengthen himself on the power. But I want to state clearly that we are all worried about the extent of corruption in this country. The call-ins that are coming in, the texts that are coming in that say it is systematic, it worries us. The president is also equally worried. Kato says for over 40 years. Why hasn't this stopped? I will guarantee you that even 100 years, we shall still fight. We shall still fight.
But not stopping.
We shall still fight corruption. We want to fight corruption to zero level. That is why the president says no corruption. At least for these 5 years, if we have been seeing him, now the president is in his last days of saying goodbye to Uganda. You've been asking for transition. We are now giving you policy transition. We are saying by the time he leaves, there will be no corruption. But Anderson and the listeners, you will agree with me. You will agree with me. The last days of power, not his last days of life.
Whatever that means.
Job is an alternative researcher. He doesn't want good things, but he goes for bad things. You see, but this is the point, that from the time General MK was appointed as CDF, we have seen how he has fought at least corruption in the army. In the army, let's just start from the army, because there was immense corruption in the procurement process in Imbuya. And we have seen, whether in engineering brigade, road construction, and towards NAM summit, you will agree with me that when KCCA asked for a certain amount of money to repair the roads and cover the potholes, you saw what General came and did, and even used less money than what was being requisitioned for. The airline scandal, I've had
someone is asking about
yes,
it.
Airline scandal. 6
Mm.
people in the opposition are on this committee about the airline scandal. No one can tell, because even you telling me that the speaker prevented me from reading this report, that is also corruption, because you can read it. Why is it that when Kato is being arrested, you can read it on TikTok live, but a report of airline scandal, you cannot read it on TikTok, or you can't read it anywhere?
That you
But
had the
you will-
comments
but-
of the
but-
speaker
but-
in
but-
regards to
but-
that report.
But you see, that is not the role of the speaker. If you're the chairperson Kosase, if you're the chairperson Park, you are bestowed with the power to publish these reports. You can't say, the moment you say, if Moses is meant to read a report, and then Moses says, Tony told me not to read it, that is corruption also.
It was
That's
public,
corruption.
not even
That is corruption
It
also.
wouldn't be subordination.
If
Please
you-
conclude your point.
he spoke about the president walking, the anti-corruption walk, and people came to join, you will agree with me. When you have power, there is what they call security protocols. The moment right now I step in where are your headquarters? Makere Kavre.
Uganda Law Society.
Makere kanoka Makere. Even Uganda Law Society katoka
Where do you
Mchezo.
press me?
But you see, the point is that at least there is what they would call security. Not everyone would come because the president is marching. There are routes that have been directed. The people you're speaking about were using alternative routes, different from those that the traffic.
And on different days, by
Yes.
the way. Not
So-
a specific
So
day.
did they actually inform police? That is
Yes.
evidence that you would.
Yes.
That is evidence that you would.
That's why I'm bringing it
So-
all here.
Then the other thing is when you say that the president has at all times defended people that are corrupt, yeah, that they are influenced by a European Union and all. You see, the president is an intelligent man. For me, I call him a rope giver. He will give you the rope. People were crying, saying, you see, Kaihura is doing this, Kaihura is doing this. The president was collecting information.
That Anderson is
Yes,
right.
he doesn't believe. But you see, when the president is being given information, he consumes a lot of intelligence, but he sieves the intelligence. Probably by you telling him that this evidence is available and he does not take action, it doesn't mean that he has recanted that information. He will go ahead and act upon it. And now this is the time of acting. When those that read the Bible and believe in Christianity will tell you that the best punishment usually comes without anyone expecting it. So this is the time that punishment is coming.
Tony,
Yeah.
what rope has the president given
Conclude your
to
point.
the
Conclude
people
your
that
point,
he has-
Tony.
he has created in cabinet that are convicts of
Can I-
corruption?
can
Tony,
I-
conclude your point.
Can I conclude my point, Job? Job, you like alternative facts.
Mm.
Then if you state that sometimes people that are corrupt are taken to court and withdrawals are entered, that is the role of the DPP. We have had very many people, even opposition people, who the DPP has withdrawn charges. And we saw the charges of Bobby Wine have been withdrawn by the DPP. They have been withdrawn. So you want to tell me the DPP was actually given money to
Really?
withdraw
Are you sure they
charges?
were
You sure they
Yes,
were
they were
withdrawn?
withdrawn by
No,
DPP.
no.
The charges.
We haven't seen
charges?
it.
Which ones?
Have
There have
been
been so many
withdrawn.
charges.
The Gulu charges, did you dismiss that case? They were withdrawn by
The ones of
DPP.
Arua? The
Yes,
ones
the
with the
Arua,
guns?
Arua charges were withdrawn by
We haven't
no,
we
no.
haven't seen that.
yes,
on
then the
Tony, no.
next talk show I will bring you here evidence.
Evidence?
That there have been,
Yeah,
yes.
please.
No,
So
actually-
when there is no evidence, the point to fetch home is that when there is no evidence to support a case in court, the DPP is at liberty. And Kato knows this. Kato will not tell you. He will point as if the iron sheets people all were meant to be in prison. At sometimes you arrest 100, but you will get those that have cogent evidence like 4 or 5. It doesn't mean that they have not worked. It doesn't mean that security has not worked.
All right. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for creating time to be here. I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in and contributing to this discussion. It has been a very informative discussion. We hope that the powers that be have listened to us and they'll probably take action so that the fight against corruption in this country, like you have all hinted, it's corruption is a danger to our society. It takes away from us so
Job
many
should
things.
give away in our
And we
house.
hope Operation Ufisadi will be successful. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90, because we are going to go for the BBC News. After that, we'll be going to the governor for all this night. But for me and the team here in the studio, we wish you a fabulous